Hey, come on in the room. Hey, come on in the room. Yes, honey, come on in the room, honey. Come on in the room, honey. Welcome, y'all. This is all tea, all shade with the King of Shade live, honey. Yes, honey, we're gonna talk about Miss Ebony K. Williams, honey, and her recent claim that she made about the show. So we're gonna talk about it because, if y'all fans of the Real Housewives of New York, what's up, Wayne? Y'all know that last season the show abruptly ended with no reunion, and it has not been back for a 14th season. So recently, Miss Ebony K. Williams was on Carlos King's new podcast, and she basically, gave her thoughts on the situation, and she kind of shared what she thinks has happened and what caused the show not to return for a 14th season. And so we're going to talk about it. So, and I quote, this is what Miss Ebony K. Williams said, honey. She said, "I feel I was more than willing the whole season, and after we aired, and after we wrapped, and after the decision to not have a reunion, I was always willing to negotiate with my former castmates about what an ensemble future could look like that included all of us, always right up until the very end. They were unwilling is all I can tell you," she said. "They were unwilling to come to the table and meet me halfway in that negotiation." And Ebony said, "And if you know anything about business, you know anything about the art of the deal, you can't close that way," she said. "You can't close when parties involved in the negotiation are unwilling to give even an inch. So I think that more than anything is actually the reason, Carlos, that we are now getting these two shows, because as y'all know, they are dividing. Hey, look, Kendra, hey, boo. They are dividing the shows. Now, they're going to have a RHONY Legacy and RHONY regular season with a new cast and with the old heads, child. And so, Ebony basically said that that's the reason why they're dividing the shows, because the ladies refused to negotiate with her and come to a deal with her. The only person, according to Ebony, that was even willing to meet her halfway was Sonja Morgan. So let's talk about it. My thoughts on the whole situation is, Ebony joined the show last season as the first African-American housewife to be on the New York version of the franchise. And so she joined the cast, and, she, I can't say this without pissing people off. She tried to fulfill an assignment, but the assignment, unfortunately, was not her mission to fulfill, because she didn't execute it well. I'm going to put it that way. Mod says they don't want black women on the cast. They probably don't. They probably did. Now, I'm not gonna say that they did or they didn't, but I do feel like Ebony being a part of the show, I felt like she, kind of hurt herself, because you can't come on the show and try to change the minds of 50-year-old, 60-year-old women into thinking what you want them to think, to get them to change their thoughts or what they believe in. Because at this point, you're in your 50s and 60s, what you think is what you think. And I think Ebony tried to come in there and try to change these women's minds, and, was trying to get them to, understand what being black is all about, and, the black experience. And unfortunately, these ladies they weren't here for that. They were not trying to, or, really willing to be taught a Black history lesson in every scene of every of the season. They just weren't here for that. And, I feel like Ebony, shouldn't have tried to teach these women that, because at the end of the day, they were never going to change what they believe, like I said. And so her coming on the show and trying to teach them, and it was a, turn off for the viewers, because, she would have events and they would turn to these lecture things. And, we think of Housewives, we don't think of Housewives as an educational tool or educational format. And so when Miss Ebony joined the show, she was trying to turn it into some type of educational format, and that does not work when you talk about housewives, because we don't expect them to be like that type of informative show, unfortunately. And these women were not going to acquiesce to, you know, her wanting to make it that, you know. And so I think that, you know, her, you know, expecting these women to want to sign on to do a whole new season with you when you kind of, you know, expose them for what they should have been exposed as, i.e. Ramona, as the racist that she is. I think that they, you know, them not doing it, them not negotiating with her, she should have been surprised, one, because, I mean, you left the season with half the women hating you. Two, when y'all had that party a couple of months ago, like it was like a party for the Bravo celebrities, they, four of them already had an alliance against you. So you already knew they were against you. So, you know, her coming out and saying this now, it's like, well, Ebony, girl, you knew they weren't for you. You already knew there wasn't an alliance against you. You even said that, yeah, there was an alliance against me. So why would you think that they would come to you and meet you halfway about a show, about the show? Like, you should already known that 9 times out of 10, they was not going to want to film with you. They was not going to want to return to do a whole new season of the show with you. They were not going to want to do that. Like, they were not going to want to, you know, be around you like that. Like, because of, you know, you make them uncomfortable, because you shed light on things, and you made them have to think. And unfortunately, these women aren't built. They're not built for that, you know, and they're not ready for that, and they're not, you know, trying to do that. So I think that, you know, Ebony, you coming in there with this notion to try to gauge that type of conversation with them, trying to, you know, really trying to, you know, what's the bridge the gap. I give you kudos for your efforts, but they just fell flat. And I think, you know, and then, like, a lot of the things you said recently, like, girl, you was advocating for Ramona to return to the show. And I'm like, bitch, you know, you was the same one that had a whole investigation done on Ramona because you claimed that she had done some racially motivated things towards you that were disrespectful. So you had to do a whole investigation on Ramona, but then you come and do a whole interview where you say, yeah, Ramona should come back to the show. She's great for the show. I actually like Ramona. The fuck? So it's like, you go from that to now you want to come out and say, well, they didn't want to work with me because I'm black. They didn't want to negotiate with me because I'm black. Well, girl, like, which one is it? Like, which one is it? Because one minute you advocated for Ramona, who is the person that you had the most conflict with the entire season, to now, oh, she didn't want to sign with me. Luann didn't want to sign on with me because I'm black. Which one is it, sis? I'm confused. Like, I'm really, like, confused because, like, girl, either you don't like Ramona, either you and Ramona are not cool, and you know Ramona is a racist and she's full of shit, or Ramona is your friend and you want to work with Ramona. Because, girl, if they were as bad as you was making them appear to be, and as you were saying in interviews about them, why the fuck would you want to sign on and do nothing with them anyway? Why would you want to be a part of a show where you clearly have said that they made you feel uncomfortable? Because Ramona, for one, was the one that did and said racially insensitive things to you. Like, that doesn't make sense, because if someone that I felt was racist, that I felt said racially motivated things against me, that I felt said things to me that were racially insensitive, I would not want to sign on to film a damn thing with them. So that's why I'm lost with my words, because it's, you know, I understand you want to explain what happened, but girl, you giving off, you know, you just need to, you know, get to blame them and to garner some, like, sympathy and some support. But it's like, girl, you want us to support you, but then you was just advocating for the bitch to come back and work with you. And now it seems like you really want to work with this hoe again, that you said was racist towards you, that you had a whole investigation done, that you had a lawsuit that you were potentially trying to file against this woman for racially insensitive stuff that she said to you. Like, that's where the disconnect comes with me when it comes to this shit. So when I saw this article, y'all, I was like, what the fuck? Like, okay, now, Miss Ebony, honey, now, bitch, which one is it? which one is it, honey? Because like you can't have it both ways. Like you can't have it your way, honey. It's not Mickey D's. I'm not Burger King child. You can't have it your way. Either you gonna rock with Ramona in the winning them, or you gonna be against them, and you gonna stand by yourself, and you gonna stand with a new group of ladies because it's crazy. And as far as the original New York, there was Andy Cohen was saying that if Ebony has great friends, that he would consider building a show around her friends. My thing is, no one's going to watch her because Ebony was not allowed by the viewers last season. Unfortunately, she turned a lot of the viewership off last season of the show, a lot of the viewers off. And so if they were to consider doing a show based on her, the show is not going to be successful because no one's going to want to watch her. And then you got the OGs on a whole separate spinoff, and I feel like that's setting up the new show for failure because if they do a new reboot with a whole new cast, but then you have the old school cast on a separate show, the long-time viewers are going to go watch the old school cast. They're not going to want to tune into the new cast. So I think that this whole dividing and separating the shows is stupid. It's unnecessary, and it's not going to work out. Like it's not going to work. And I just feel like this is like the most dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life that they would consider, or that they're actually going to do a division of a show and divide between the old heads and the new heads. Like, based off, an issue between certain cast members. And my thing is, like I said, Ebony, you shouldn't be surprised. Ebony, you shouldn't be shocked. Ebony, you really shouldn't even had any really, you really shouldn't, I guess my thing is, you saying this now makes me look at you funny because you were just, like I said, advocating for a moment to return to the show. But you come out and say, well, they didn't want to negotiate with me. But so, it's like, but girl, you were just saying how much, she's good for the show. And how much you liked her. So now you're saying that she's a problem. Now you're saying that, you don't like how, that they don't want to work with you. I don't get it. Hello, hey boo.
How's it going?
How are you?
Good.
Welcome.
Thank you. I saw that you said something about Ebony, and I was like, "Oh Lord, here you go."
Miss Ebony K. Williams, honey, in that interview she did with Carlos King, and revealing information about the New York show and why the show has been divided into two separate entities, and I decided to come on and get my thoughts on it because I was very puzzled by this, sudden emergence of information about the New York franchise of the city show. So what are your thoughts on everything?
I mean, I actually don't understand what everyone's so mad about with the two shows. Like, everybody's happy, right? I mean, yes, in a perfect world, people who do bad things would have the punishment they deserve of not having a show. But we all know it's all opinions. So your definition of doing something bad is different than my definition of doing something bad. And who you think should be fired is different than who I think should be fired. So at this point, I'm like, great. They're just making everybody happy with two shows. And I think we should all just settle down a little bit. But I am sad that Ebony is not coming back because I do enjoy Ebony.
Hey,
I think they should have built the new cast around her.
No, and about watch. And so I think, because you got to think about last season, she turned off a good chunk of the viewers because, they didn't find it interesting. And I didn't find it interesting at all either. Like, I was kind of, like, bored with her, and I expected more.
Well, they put her in a situation where, like, you have Ebony, because Ebony, and I've said this before on my show, like, Ebony isn't just like I'm a black girl, roaming through life as a woman who's black. Like, Ebony is, like, blackity black, as in, like, that is also, like, her job is speaking out about blackness and educating people about blackness. So, like, you put her in an environment of upper New Yorkers who are, like, so tone deaf to that stuff, like, it's going to be a problem from jump. Like, they shouldn't have put her into that environment like that because those women were not ready to handle that. They needed to start with someone like a Barsh. I always say her name wrong.
Bershawn, yeah.
Bershawn. They need
Yeah.
to start with someone like a Rashawn, where she's like black and she's black positive, but like blackness isn't her identity in the way that it is Ebony. So they would have been able to mesh her in a little bit better.
I agree because I do feel like, oh, that's my, because I do feel like, Brashawn's approach and her, energy with the show was a little bit different because Brashawn already, she understood these white women are set in their ways. These white women are not going to change their minds or change their mindsets of what they think of black people or situations involving people of color. And so
Mm.
her coming in knowing that she didn't say, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to have a lecture moment. I'm going to try to get them to understand the struggles of black people. I'm going to do a whole, I'm going to do a whole sermon and try to get them to get it. Like she understood that these women are not going to get it, so I'm not going to give them I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of me sitting there trying to teach them about blackness. I'm not going to do that. And I think Brashawn understood that, and Brashawn was not going that route. And I think that's why Brashawn, to me, I liked her. I think that's why I like a lot of the fans liked her because she knew she'd engaged that. She came in completely different than Ebony. Ebony came in, to me, in my opinion, trying to, like Stephanie said, she was trying. Like Ebony came in trying to debate and trying to have these constant conversations, which
Yeah.
conversations are good, dialogue is good, but I think she was constantly trying to do that. And we don't watch Housewives to learn history lessons. And we don't watch
But I mean, I
Housewives to
don't think
be.
your history
We don't.
lesson.
I mean, but we don't watch it for informative stuff. We watch it more for entertainment. So when you come in trying to give us Fox News on Orange and why that ain't gonna work, and it didn't work.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of the problem though isn't even so much the information she tried to provide us, because I do think that there are housewives who have different cultures and different backgrounds, different things where they have moments and times and periods and pockets where we do learn from them. So I don't think the Bravo audience is against learning. I do think, however, that because of the women being the way they are, they were never going to open up to someone just coming off the street and talking to them about that stuff. They perceived it the way you perceived it, like it was luxury. Like, here's this person who we don't even really know coming in to try to tell us about all the stuff that we are already trying to block out of hearing it in the news and on the TV and everything. And now she's bringing it to my doorstep. So they're going to have, an angry reaction to that. I think had she come in and tried to truly establish friendships with the women and like truly like made a connection with the women. And I know, again, she was trying to make a connection her way, but I think if she had made a connection a little bit more their way, I think some of those conversations, like when Ramona doesn't care about you, Ramona doesn't care to listen to you, she doesn't care. But when she actually has a friendship with you, I mean, half the time she still doesn't care, but she'll try a little bit more, So I think they would have been more receptive to her had she built relationships and then tried to educate.
I agree. Stephanie said, aka Mocha Minute, said they also didn't ask Rashawn to teach them. That's the problem. Why ask her to teach y'all if y'all don't want her to teach?
That is true. They did
Exactly.
ask
That's
her. They
true.
did ask her. That's
That's
true.
true. And they
Thank you, Stephanie.
exactly. So and I agree. They asked her to teach, and then when she did teach, they weren't here for it.
Mm-hmm.
And they shouldn't have asked her to teach, but Ebony should have. Her being as smart as she is, she didn't even accepted the role of teacher. She should have said, you
Yeah.
know what? That's not my. I'm not coming on here to teach y'all. I'm not coming on here to be a lecturer because I'm not trying to be looked as this black woman come on television trying to educate the world, trying to be this pro-blackness
Yeah.
queen. She because I don't think that's what she wanted to come on and be portrayed as, but unfortunately that's what she gave. She kind of gave off. I'm trying to teach y'all. I'm trying to make y'all understand me. I'm trying to make y'all get it, but you can't make 60-year-old white women get it. Like in 60
You know
years,
what
they ain't
though?
got it. In 60 years, they're not gonna change. They're gonna die thinking the way they think. So it was just a wasted opportunity for her coming on the show, being historic as the first black housewives who come on and and it just didn't work. It didn't give what it needed to give. And then she coming on, then she did like a whole interview where she was saying, oh, I like Ramona. Ramona should come back. The same woman that you literally had an investigation done on her and you were threatening to sue and all that stuff because you said that she said a racially insensitive things that never did not show. But yet now you advocating for her to return to the show. And then now you're doing this saying that she didn't want to work with you. It doesn't make it's like she goes from one level to another level and it comes out very hypocritical and inconsistent. And that's my issue with Ebony, the inconsistencies. Either you like Ramona or you don't.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand that viewpoint. My thing with Ebony, so this is the only justification in my head that I can give the Ebony thing, right? Because I do think that she is very, very intelligent. So when I think about like, why would Ebony do this show, knowing that these women, because Ebony has been around for a while. She's been in New York for a while. She's dealt with those
Hmm.
people. She's been on Fox News. So she's been around for a while. So she knows those women. She knows what they're going to want to hear, what they're not going to hear. And I think she's smart enough to know how to finesse them if she truly wanted to. I think a part of her knew she was going in as a one season, one time only thing. And I think she used the platform to further express and show her pro blackness. Because before the show, there were still a lot of black people where Ebony was the woman on Fox News. Like Ebony's not one of us. She's black, but she's over there on Fox News. Granted, she was fighting for black rights as well, but they still viewed her as Fox News, the traitor Ebony. Now she's on the Real Housewives shouting blackness from the rooftop, which is the core of what she's into, what she likes, what she wants to portray. So now she's there, she's dealing with, these other people who are trying to like hold her back from speaking her truth. So now all of the pro black people are like pro Ebony because she's pro blackness. So part of me feels like it's very, very smart and strategic of her knowing the space she wants to move into with her career and politically and just what aligns with what she wants to do. I think she went in knowing it was going to be a one season thing and used it to the best of her advantage.
You think so? Because I think that she wanted to be on the show more than one season. I think that she was, because she even said that she wanted to come back. So I think she wanted to be on the show more than one season. I think that she wanted to be on the show, as long as she could to kind of, to spread the
Yeah.
gospel of us black people and black excellence and educating
I mean, I'm
white
sure she
women
would have
into
been.
us as black people. I think that was her plan to be on there more than one season and love at least two, further push her movement and message along to the women on the show. So I
I think,
think,
like, obviously, if she had been invited more than one season, I think she would have. I just think a part of her knew that there's also a likely chance it would be one season. And that's why she didn't do the whole, like, oh, let me finesse. She, like, just came in hot. Just because I just think that she's smart enough to know not to come in hot unless she's coming in hot for a reason. I think she came in hot for a reason.
because there was moments that were like cringy. They would have arguments or have like disagreements, and then it would just turn like to racial. It would turn racial real quick, and then be like, oh, shoot, now we have a racial moment, and it's like I think the viewers the viewers aren't used to that. Like we never had shows where like if a black woman like Atlanta when Kim and Nene argued that it wasn't quickly turned to oh this is a racial thing. It never turned to that. It was like okay they going at it, they friends arguing yada yada. But when Ebony and Luann have an argument or Ebony and Ramona have an argument, it quickly turns to this is a racial thing. Stop the press. We gotta have a conversation about it, and it's like I think it made like a lot of the viewers uncomfortable because they weren't used to that. Like I wasn't used to that because, like I said, I watched Kim and Nene go at it, call each other
Right.
monkeys, and all kinds of names to each other. It
Yeah.
never turned to racial.
Well, I think at that point, then we have to question why a racial conversation makes the Bravo audience so uncomfortable, so much more than some of the other topics. Because let's be honest, it's not like, they're all like rainbows and gumdrops and sunny days on the Housewives. There have been some
Hmm.
very serious conversations, whether it's domestic violence, alcoholism, um, there is even sexual abuse and what like so there's a history of having very serious conversations on the show. So when people say like, oh, I don't watch the show for those serious things, like, yeah, you kind of do. But why is it like you are okay accepting those conversations and either sitting through the uncomfortableness of them or being like, oh, it's just TV? Like, why are you okay with that? But this topic makes you so uncomfortable, you can't even stand to sit through a conversation about it.
I mean that a lot that's that inner racism inner thing that they have that they are battling, and it makes them uncomfortable because they do have those racial, racial tendencies. They do have that struggle with racism within themselves. So, I think that a lot of viewers, are racist and have those same biases, and it makes them uncomfortable to watch the show. And then I think that also fans of the Bravo shows aren't looking to watch Housewives, and like I said, as an informative type of show when it comes to social issues. Like we don't look at the Real Housewives as a social issue type of show. We look at it as cat fights, they get drunk, drama, they going on out of show trips, coming back home, and yeah, we not looking for them to give us Fox News. We're not looking for the View. We're not looking for their own
Yeah.
Housewives. We're just not. We want to watch the
Yeah.
View because we'll go watch Whoopi and Sonny and them over there on ABC. We're looking
Yeah.
for the
Well,
traditional.
yeah, I think it just speaks to the fact that it just makes people uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, the more we run away from that uncomfortable feeling, the more uncomfortable it's going to feel. Like and it's very hard to admit, we all have implicit biases. People shout like, oh, racism, racist, but like a lot of it is implicit biases that we have implanted in us that we don't even recognize because it's so deep rooted in how we learn. And as you start to like remove the layers of that, like it stinks sitting in the mirror and be like, man, I used to think that way and it was wrong. And so a lot of people run away from that feeling and say, don't call me that, I'm not racist, instead of being like, man, because of how I grew up or what I was surrounded by, this is what I think, but I'm open to learning and changing. And I think with Housewives, we saw that like as a Ramona versus a Sonia. Sonia was like, this is what it is. Like, I want to learn. I want to know better. And Ramona was like, I don't want to know that or be told that I was wrong, that
Hmm.
all these 60 years I've been thinking the wrong thing. So they run away from that feeling.
I agree. Someone said that. Someone said, Maj. She said that Beverly Hills up there too. Beverly Hills. I would say yeah, but Beverly Hills. I think because I Garcelle's
Oh, she was saying the ratings. She was
the
saying that
rating.
Atlanta and Potomac have the highest ratings, and Beverly Hills is up there too.
Yeah, but see, Beverly Hills but Beverly Hills has also done well with Garcelle's introduction to the show. Garcelle had more of a successful introduction because she did it right. She got to know the girl. She knew some of the women. She got to form friendships, and she didn't come in trying
Oh,
to
I have a question for you.
preach down to their neck. Garcelle came in like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm Garcelle. I'm
Mhm.
fabulous. How are you? Yes, I'm Hollywood royalty too. I'm an actress. Get to know me, my
Yeah,
kids, my story, and that's what made Garcelle relatable and likable because Garcelle came in just being Garcelle and not trying to come in and teach these white women about being black. So she didn't come in
mhm.
with that approach. Her approach was completely different, and that's why the fans love her. Whereas
Yeah,
Ebony's approach was the polar opposite, and it kind of had a knee jerk reaction to the fandom. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. That's true. I have a question for you though. So,
Mhm.
when the person was talking about ratings, because
Mhm.
we were talking about like how the audience doesn't like racism and things like that. When she was talking about ratings, she said, "What about the fact that Atlanta and Potomac have the highest ratings, and
Mhm.
Beverly Hills?" And it made me think that it's interesting because the reason why they have the highest ratings is that they have the addition of more Black viewers. So,
Oh
do you
yeah.
think it's interesting that we like and we expect the white Bravo fan viewers to also watch Atlantic and Potomac because if you like Housewives, you should like Housewives. Yet there are very many Housewife viewers that only watch Atlanta and Potomac and don't watch the white cast as well. Like, what do you think about that?
Well, I'm in the majority because I don't watch all the white cast shows. I watch Beverly Hills and I watch New York, but I don't watch all the other shows outside of the predominantly black cast. And mind you, Atlanta originally had a white cast member for the
Yeah.
first 5 years, so it became an all black ensemble when my queen Miss Kenya Moore joined the cast and elevated the
Mhm.
cast to its level of success that it is currently. And so, I think that, the white audience, they enjoy watching our shows. Now, I think that they, like you said, because it's a housewife show, they're gonna watch every housewife show. Now, there's
Yeah.
some like myself who only watch certain shows because certain shows appeal to certain people. So I think
But I
that's
just think
kind
it's interesting that we're like, oh, it's cool. Like, if a Black person says, like, oh, I only watch the Black Housewives, we're like, we get it. But if a white person were to be like, oh, I only watch the ones with the white housewives, we'd be like, what? Like we'd have an
of.
opinion about the fact that that's like if that was their deciding thing. And I just always find it interesting that like we're okay with it, and we know we're okay being like, oh, I watch the Black ones is because culture, right? Like we identify with them, but we still want the white viewers to watch those, even if they don't identify with it, because it's an opportunity for them to learn.
Yes,
But
and we want that. We want those ratings. We want those viewership. So of course we want them to watch and support our shows because a lot of us do watch and support their shows. A lot of us do enjoy, watching, the New York and Beverly Hills and OC. Like because
yeah.
I'm engaged in interact with a lot of black
OC
people
is
who
good
love
this
those.
year. I haven't watched it in like over a decade, but I'm liking this season.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of people of color that I know love OC. That's one of their top favorite shows of the Housewives show. So I think it goes both ways. I don't have a problem with white people telling me I only watch the white shows. I'm like, hey, that's your lane. Evidently, you're more
Yeah,
comfortable watching people that look like you. Like I'm more comfortable watching people that look like me because
yeah,
I can connect better with someone that looks like me because I can understand the struggle of being black because I'm black.
right,
So
right.
I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, and
um,
that is the one area where I kind of understood from the New York viewers, because those New York viewers were predominantly white and watching people who identified with them. So it'd be almost as if like Kim joined Atlanta but was preaching about whiteness all the time. Like the Atlanta audience would not be having it either. So like
oh no.
on that level, I'm like, I get it. I don't agree, but I get it.
Dante
Well,
Dash Smith says we also establish the culture. Most white people follow trends we already started. Of course, they
that's
follow
true.
all the trends. They getting the lip injections, they getting the booty injections, they want
All of
to
our features got picked
tan.
on for. They're paying for
Exactly.
now.
We get picked on for, but they all go to have surgery and die to get it to
Yeah.
look like us. So we do set the trends that they follow, and they definitely are. We see it all the time. We've seen certain housewives they're going and getting that self tanning and darkening their skin just to have that melanated glow because when they see our housewives do their cast photos, they slay it and look stunning. So they want to have that same glow, but but they don't get the same glow because they're not naturally melanated. Like we don't have to go in and get spray tan to be this melanated, golden, bronzy color. We naturally have it in our DNA. So
Yeah.
yes, I
Well,
definitely.
I don't want to take up your whole time, but thanks for letting me hop
Thank you
on
for
and give
coming
my two
by.
cents.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. I enjoyed your insight.
Thank
It was
you.
good to hear another side to get some feedback and some dialogue from another perspective on this topic. Because I was like I said, just shocked. I'm like, here he's Ebony's coming out and saying this. It makes a lot of sense of why they divide the shows now. It kind of gives clarity to what was the real reason. Because as we know, they did have an alliance against her.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
cast did have this agreement they didn't want to work with her. So I'm like, Ebony, girl, you shouldn't be shocked because you knew that they didn't want to rock with you. So, like, you
Mhm.
expect them to come to the table and negotiate with you if you knew they had an alliance already pre this whole
Right.
negotiation deal that y'all were trying to get together for season 14 of the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but
you have a good night. Thank you
thank you
again.
too.
Bye.
All right. Yes, y'all. That was the beautiful butterfly, honey. She is always insightful, and I always enjoy talking with her. She definitely said some very very smart, very very thought provoking things. With these shows and these housewives of color, these white housewives, and all this racism stuff. It's definitely a great conversation to have. But like I said, I think that Emily's approach on the New York show just it wasn't the right approach. I think she took the Garcelle route and just genuinely like formed connections and genuinely formed true bonds with the women. She could have slowly started to integrate those conversations, and it would have been a better received. But because she came on as someone new and trying to have these conversations, it just didn't land well, and it just didn't, and it unfortunately, worked against her, and she, I guess not returning to the show or has not been asked back for the new show, but I just found it, like I said, puzzling that she came out and said that the girls didn't want to negotiate with her to do a season 14, honey. Because like, girl, you shouldn't have been surprised. I mean, I know you weren't surprised because the bitches, like I said, already had the lines against you. They already had this whole thing that they were not going to film with you. They didn't want to be around you because you brought out things that, about them that you needed to bring out that made them uncomfortable. So, I mean, and Andy loves New York girls. He was not going to turn his back on them. Andrew was not going to do that. They his bread and butter. So, you know. But Miss Ebony K. Williams, honey, if you ever want to come on live with me and have a conversation, I'm here for it, honey. Because I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear what you have to say. And maybe you can give me some more clarity on how you feel about your role on the show and how you feel about your portrayal on the show. So come join me, honey. DM me. And on that note, y'all, I'm going to let y'all go and have the rest of the evening to enjoy. And I will talk to you guys later.